How you going, peoples? I haven't done a video for a couple of weeks because I had coronavirus, and it's not as fun as you think it is. It was 3 days I was knocked on my ass, and I still have like this niggling cough. Last night I was at the dojo gym and I was working away, and it just still, even now I've been clear for a week. It put me on my ass, and by 6:30 or something, I was just massacred. I had to go to sleep. It was terrible. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about when I was living in Japan. I was looked after by this Japanese Yakuza boss, which is not as bad as what it kind of seems, because all of K1, all the karates, they're all Yakuza. I mean, the whole country's run by different levels of Yakuza. It's not like a gang, and it's not like other mobsters and criminals that we, especially here in the West, associate gangs with. I mean, they're really well organized in the ways, almost like a martial arts school. And they obviously don't have belts, but they have rankings and they have names for where they are. And when you're the boss, you're the boss, and it's kind of cool to see how they run it. So the guy who looked after me, I'm not going to say his name because he's still alive and I respect him a lot, and I don't want him to come and get me whacked. I don't think he would. But he was a massive car guy, so he had all these cool cars. He had one Ferrari F50 in the car park that was covered with an inch of dust. He just never drove it. He bought it, he drove it. I think he said there was 1,000 kilometers on it. And he used to drive around in the Toyota Crowns, which is like a I don't think they sell them brand new anywhere other than Japan. And you have to kind of be on a waiting list, and Toyota has to kind of want to sell them to you. And they're really expensive, but they look like a 1985 car, and they're just specifically for the Japanese market, and possibly specifically only for Japanese yaks, which is really super cool. And he had all these other cool cars, and he had a car company that, done up, super expensive cars and made them even better. He also owned, race horses, but he looked after fighters. So he looked after me, Nicholas Pettis, and a whole bunch of other guys that I can't think of off the top of my head. But one day, he sent the call, so we went to the gym, and Nick said to me, he goes, "Hey P man, we're going out with the boss. We'll come pick you up in a car." So we went out and we went to the hostess bar. And so this guy was married, had kids, but he also had his girlfriend. So everyone knew except maybe the wife. It's just a Japanese thing. It's crazy. So the boss is there with his girlfriend, and all his cronies are hanging around, and me and Nicholas. Anyway, so we're at this hostess bar, and then we go, and it's his birthday, so they bring him a cake. And we're like, oh, that's nice. Everyone's eating the cakes. And we pay up and we go to this other one. It's really exclusive place. And it's really fun. And they bring us a bigger cake, a better cake. And we're drinking and stuff. And he brings out this really expensive bottle of Bollinger. And he pours me a glass, and I go, man, besides the fact we're training for a fight, everyone in Japan drinks more than anywhere I know. It's crazy. Oh, maybe the Japanese drink more often, but the Russians drink more. Anyway, so he's handing me this really expensive champagne, and I'm broke ass, right? So I'm tasting it. I'm like, this tastes like shit. And he's like slightly offended, but he also likes it the way that, I don't bullshit with him. I just he liked that. It was very un-Japanese, but I think he liked it because he didn't come from a wealthy family. I'll tell you his story. in a second. It's fascinating. But anyway, so he goes, oh, what do you want? I said, just, I don't know, get me a beer. So he talks to one of his guys and, something or other, beat it. Anyway, so he comes back, the hostess comes back with a glass that's like this big, like huge. And they just keep filling it with beer. And I'm drinking this massive beer and they thought it was awesome. It's funny as hell. So then they bring the cake and everyone's like, happy birthday to you. And so he's singing happy birthday and his girlfriend goes, takes a little bit of cake and puts it on his nose and everyone's, And I'm like, we're having a food fight? Is that what we're doing? Because if we're doing that, take a massive scoop of cake and go, boom, throw it in his face and the joint goes silent, dead silent. And they're just like, fuck, you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. But you really could. It was like, and it probably was only for a couple seconds, but it felt like it was forever. And then the boss, he just shit himself. He thought it was the funniest thing ever. And he picked up the cake and he chucked at his girlfriend. And then everyone was all in. There's cake everywhere. It was funny as hell. And he's wearing like a $15,000 suit and, super expensive watch, which reminds me of what happened next. So we had the cake fight and that was all funny as hell. And the watch, that reminded me, he's always one-upping me. I mean, not that he needed to. There was no illusion that he was, crazy wealthy. He, amongst other things, he owned like 500 blocks of apartments in Tokyo that were all rented out. It was insane. And that was one of his things. Anyway, so he goes, he didn't speak much English, but he had a watch on and like a super blinged out, Philippe Patek, customized watch, full. And he goes, he's explaining through the interpreter. He goes, hey, Pete, you see the watch? It has rectangle cut diamonds. He goes, they're really expensive. It's the most expensive cut. I don't know how true that is, but I don't know, well, who am I to disagree, right? So I go, oh man, cool. How much is your watch worth? And he goes, it's worth $500,000. And I went, cool, man. And I had a G-Shock on. And I went, blip, does it have a light? It didn't have a light. And I was like, oh man. I just liked the way that, we could communicate like that because everyone else was just kissing his ass. I think he liked that too. Because, as I'm going to say, so where he was from, so when he was a little kid, his parents, he's had adopted parents, which is kind of pretty strange in Japan from what I understand. The story goes is that his mom found him in a park, this little black kid, and he was explaining to me that his mom thought he was a black guy. And she took him home and washed him off. And he was like 3 years old or something. He was really young. So I don't know what the hell happened. And he can't remember. Because I asked him, I said, hey man, what happened? And he goes, I can't remember. He just remembers his mom telling him a story that she took him home and washed him off and said, oh, you're like us, you're Japanese. And his mom and dad were slightly older. And they raised him and looked after him. He went to school, and from what I understand is he was bullied because he was poor, very poor. The strange thing is it wasn't like he was 40 years older than me. He was like 2 or 3 years older than me, or maybe 7, a maximum of 10 years older. And he was, if he wasn't, he was certainly close to being a billionaire. Anyway, so he got bullied at school and teased. So don't bully people because they come back as gangsters and, spoil your whole life. Be nice. Anyway, so he said, he went to school and he kind of fell in with the wrong crowd. And he was working for the local Yakuza, the Pachinko parlors. Pachinko is it's a gambling machine. All these ball bearings fall down. You use little knobs And then if it goes down the right holes, you get more ball bearings at the end. You get a basket full of them. You can't gamble in Japan, so what they do is they take the basket of ball bearings, go to a little shop, and they'll swap. Sorry, you take your basket of ball bearings, you go to the place that you're playing pachinko. They give you like a gift, like a teddy bear or something, in like plastic. And then you go next door and you sell it to them, and they give you the money. So it's a good way to get around the gambling laws, I guess. It's a crazy system. Anyway, so he started working for them, and he started doing the running for them. He'd take the cash from one place to the other, or the whatever it was. And then he decided, when he was a bit older, he said, "Oh, you know what? These guys are bitches. He said, I'm going to be the boss now." And they're like, "What are you talking about? You're a teenage kid." I think he was like, late teens or something, from what I remember. Anyway, and he's like, "Oh, I'm the boss now." And they're like, "No." And I guess he just fucked someone up, and they go, "Okay, you're the boss." And the only reason I know this story is because he was looking at my tattoos, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, do you have any tattoos?" And I thought he'd be covered in what you'd call, like traditional Yakuza tattoos, like the ones, with a carp and, like the what are they called? Like the dragons, but also the mythological Japanese demons and stuff like that. So I'm like, "Oh, super excited." He goes, "Oh yeah, I have tattoos." But when he pulled up his shirt and he showed me, and he had all these shit tattoos, like jail tattoos, like really shitty ones. And I was like, "Oh, why is that?" And he goes, "Well, he went to jail when he was younger, and they gave him, we got the tattoos in jail." And he goes, I'm getting them all taken off." And he showed me the other arm, they started taking them off, so he didn't like them. But he was a super cool guy, and he really looked after me. And one time we flew back to Sydney. Oh, sorry, no, we flew to the Gold Coast, that's right. And he goes, "Oh, I've got to go and look at a house I own at the Gold Coast." So we went there, and he goes, "Oh, we need some more, furnishing." So we went up to Armani, Gucci, no, what's the other one? Versace. We went into Versace, and there was like maybe 5 or 6 of us in the entourage, and he's just like, "Oh, get whatever you want." And he just decked out the whole place. It was awesome. He must have spent a couple of $100,000. It's so impressive when you see guys do that. And he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to make the place nice." And he stays there because it's on a golf course, he stays there for a week a year and plays golf, and that's it. And he did stuff like that. But on the way there, when I met him at the airport, I was flying economy, and of course he was flying first class or business or whatever the highest he could get. And he saw I had a bankroll of cash, and I thought I was pretty cool. It was probably, I don't know, 10 grand in US dollars, it's about that big. Anyway, so I thought I was pretty cool. And he said, "Oh, is that your bankroll?" To the interpreter. Always got an interpreter with him and a minder and someone to give him a cigarette or whatever. And he opens his Louis Vuitton bag, like a travel bag. It's about, what's that? I don't know, that deep. Anyway, it looked like a bowling bag, except it didn't have bowling balls in it. It was full with cash. And I go, "Fuck, are you kidding me?" He's laughing. It was US dollars, and I think it was whatever they use in Indonesia. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm going, after we go to Australia, I'm going to go to Indonesia. I'm going to buy a mountain, and this money is to make sure that I get the mountain." I was like, damn, this guy's gangster as hell. I don't know what he's doing now. I hope he's all right. He was a good guy. I knew that he wanted to try to come to Australia and move here, but it never happened. So, hey, that's my story for today. Thanks, boss. Had me lots of good times, lots of funny times, and it's part of the journey of being a pro fighter. So, if that's your dream, get back to the gym.